You gotta load. There we go. Okay, I was like, I'm waiting for it to load. Okay. All right, guys, it's time for our study group. Hey, Ray. Hey, guys. All right, here, let me type this in. Study group. No readings. All right. What a day. So it's like just a lot of craziness happening right now. I'm having to my brain is like, so my mom's apartment complex got sold to a new and my mom still lives back in the hood. That's where she wanted to be at. So she's still there. All the neighbors, her boyfriend, they all live in that area because that's where they want to live at. And that's where we grew up. That's where the family was all at. But the family's moved away. Everybody's moved on. But she still feels like there's something there. There's nothing there, Mom. That's just you. It's just you and the neighbors. And at this point, the apartment complex that she lives at, it got purchased by another company, and they are doing a lot of changes, and they're trying to price out they're trying to price out tenants at this point. So with people whose leases are being renewed and everything, they're pretty much pricing them out. So they don't have a choice but to move them, because what they want to do is they want to jack up the price of the apartment so they can start getting all of the this is gentrification, y'all. This is what happens to gentrification. And so with that, my mom's, they didn't really give her, the property changed hands in the summertime. And so now they're telling everybody, hey, we're not renewing your lease unless you want to pay this much money, which is a ridiculous amount of money. But no. So at this point, we had no choice but to find something that's more affordable for my mom. And so she doesn't want to leave that area or the neighborhood. And I know that's a struggle for her. But at the same time, she is getting older. Last week, when the whole thing with my cat, Chanel, happened, I'm going to take a moment because I want to talk about stuff. But last night, and this is what I tell people, sometimes when you have a lot of positive things happening, you sync up with that. And even with the positive things, there may be some things that happen that you're not really enjoying. But then there's, there are times where, then there's a lot of really challenging things to have to go through. And in my life, whenever there's a challenging situation that comes up, usually it's several and they all come around the same time, just because I always tell God, look, I don't want to have this drag out for months or years or whatever. If you're going to give me challenging experiences that I have to go through or experience, let it happen all at once. And so now a bunch of things are happening. So we have my cat that passed away. So that happened, the week before last, during Thanksgiving week. And then during the end of that week, my mom, what she did was because we've already been thinking about, she needs to have someone with her 24/7. And her boyfriend, she has a boyfriend that's lived with her. Right now he's in Mexico because he's having some surgery. And so his sister is staying with my mom because she always stays with my mom whenever he's off and away. And so she's going to Mexico now because she's going for the holidays. And so my mom is going to be staying with my sister while they're over there. So she'll be with my sister for a few weeks during Christmas. But last week, with all of this, I always said to myself, you're getting older. Your apartment's not really equipped for, an older person to live there who's going to need more support, or, they don't even have bars on the bathtub. My mom's lived there for 10 plus years. So she's been there a long time. But she needs to be in a place that's a little more suited for older audiences. So already that's been a thought in our head, but we were just when it comes to it, then we'll deal with it. Well, last week, my mom, apparently, she went to the bathroom to go do something, and then she tripped and fell. Luckily, she didn't hurt herself. And something that y'all should know about my mother is she falls all the time. I mean, she falls all the time. I've gotten her 3 separate types of walkers. I've gotten her with the wheels. I've gotten her the other type of walker. I've gotten her several types of walkers. She refuses to use them. She gets angry with people when they try to force her to use it. The nurse that goes and sees her every week, she got her a cane through her insurance, and my mom is barely just trying to want to use the cane, but she ended up falling. She didn't hurt herself, even though in the past she has fallen and hurt herself. She's fallen and she's messed up her ankle, which is now all jacked up, which is why she can't walk as well. Once she fell and she dislocated her shoulder, and then it didn't go back the way it was supposed to. So then that led to a procedure of having to open that up and then get in there. It was a mess, and we almost lost her during that surgery. So this is my mother. This is the energy that she comes with. But she fell last week when she was going to the bathroom, and she just could not mentally figure out how to stand up. Even though my mom lays in the bed every morning, she gets herself up from bed, she sits on a couch, she gets herself up from the couch, but she fell down and she could not for the life of her come up with a plan in the moment to get herself back up. And so she panicked and she started crawling all the way to the front door of the apartment. Luckily, one of the neighbors overheard, was stopping by to say hi, and he couldn't get into the door, but she yelled at him to go get some help, and they got the manager to open the door. They got in, they helped her up. She sat up. She was fine after that. Nothing was bruised. She was fine. But, and we were just like, Mom, why didn't you crawl over to, I would hate to say this, but Mom, why didn't you get over to the bed or to the couch and use it to get yourself up? I don't know. She just wasn't thinking that way because she doesn't think that way. It was just like, okay, so we already know this, this lady cannot be alone. And so that happened last week. And then this week, the apartment complex announced that they're making some changes. They will not be renewing some people's lease. They're trying to price people out. And so now we have to find her a new place. So that's happening. And they gave, of course, her lease ends within a month. It ends just December 31st. So right away, having to go from, oh crap, okay, I just got past Chanel stuff, and then hearing about what happened with my mom last week and dealing with that, right? And I don't talk about these things to people when I get on here because, y'all didn't come here to hear my problems, but I'm using this to make a point, right? So there's that happened last week, and then now this whole apartment thing is moving around, and then that's huge because already I struggle with that because my mom's been there for 10 plus years. She's used to that neighborhood. She's used to all her neighbors. She's used to the people and the community that they have around there in the apartment complex. But a bunch of those people are also getting priced out as well. They're not staying. And so she's like, can't we stay? I'm like, I'm sorry, Mom. So we're having to break her heart, and we're having to we have to move you. We don't have a choice. So we're looking for different options that are available to her, and we hopefully will have her moved into her new place by the end of the month. But she's still also going to have to stay with my sister because her boyfriend's still out of town and she can't be by herself. So we're just basically moving her stuff, and then she'll be staying with my sister until her boyfriend comes back. And then at that point, but my sister wants her closer to her. Because currently my mom's on the east side of town where I grew up. My sister's in Cyprus, or she's way over there. So my mom, she's moving my mom to that side of town. And she's like, Mom, we're giving you an upgrade. This is going to be an upgrade for you. So you're getting a lot of, changes and positive, and so she's like, okay. So, but she's just she's being a little bit stubborn and hard-headed about it. We get it. We understand it. This is not a big easy change. It's not an easy change for her. It is a huge change for her. It's a big change for us as well. And my sister's taking on more responsibility to have her closer by anyways, which is going to be a huge help. So we don't have to worry about her as much. My sister literally can, if she gets one of the places that we were looking at, she can literally just jog there if she ever had to, but it's literally a minute or two down the street. So she'll be doing all my mom's shopping and everything instead of the way that it's set up now where the neighbors and all, they all help each other out. But, my mom, I know, is not happy about it. So we're dealing with that. And then I'm probably going to have to go to Houston to help with all that. I'm not just going to say, hey, good luck. We're probably going to have movers deal with it because I'm not trying to break my back and my sister ain't trying to break her back. So we'll probably get movers to do that. We'll probably get a service to come in and pack all her stuff for her as well. And then that way, whatever we are going to do is we just have to get her situated in the new place. And then when her boyfriend comes back from Mexico from his procedure, because this is all happening while he's gone, but then he's going to be with her as well. So, which I don't really know why they don't just get married. They've been together for 15, 20 years already. So, but anyways, the drama. So all these things are trickling down and coming in at the same time. And it's funny because I was reading my horoscope and it had said, if you're a Taurus, your world's about to get turned upside down. And then right after that, then Shani passed away. And then the thing happened last week with my mom. And then now she's moving and everything is literally getting turned. I was like, y'all are not kidding with these things. But the point of it is we go through cyclical patterns. And sometimes with cyclical patterns, especially with law of attraction, which is what we're focusing on. This is the book, right? We're reading this, right? It works both ways. it works both ways. If you are trying to align with positive experiences and you get on a roll and in that zone, then you are going to have a lot of really incredible blessings and things happen, and they're going to come in, and it'll blow your mind with the levels of synchronicities that start to happen. If you can maintain the same type of momentum even through the darkest periods in your life, things still align for you. Things will still happen and sync up for you so that it reduces the amount of craziness you would be dealing with if you were not synced up. If you were not synced up, we could find ourselves in a completely different situation. My mom could have fallen and actually been in a hospital. Maybe with the whole move thing, maybe what if, we didn't have the funds that we have set aside that we can use to use for my mother's move, because moving is an expensive thing, but we have those funds. So these other things are there to help us make the process easier, even though it is still a challenging experience. And so this is the experience that we have to go through, regardless of what we prefer, but we have the tools and resources and the opportunities to be able to do it so that it's a smoother ride than a bumpy ass road in a car that's breaking down on you, right? So this is law of attraction. This is also the way that it works. So even if you're going to have a bunch of things come down and you have to deal with it, don't fight it. And in the moment, when it first starts coming down, okay, you can be like, you can have your breakdown moment. You can have whatever moment you need to have in that instance. But then as soon as you get past that, because that's just the human part of us, it's like, no, like I don't want to deal with this, or I don't want to have to resolve this issue, or I want peace. I don't want this. Like that's the response, the reaction. And so that's the immediate reaction. Once you get past the immediate reaction, then just say, screw it. I'm going to have to go with it and just ride this puppy and just do the best that I can. And so that's the situation there. So if that's what you have to do, then that's what you have to do. But if you ride it and you embrace, okay, this is what is, I can't change the situation. I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to go with it and just do whatever I can and do the best that I can. And then if you do that, you will realign things so that even if you are driving down a bumpy road, at least you're not driving down a bumpy road in a car that's breaking down at the same time. At least you have a vehicle that can still make it. So that's the mindset that you have to have with these kinds of situations in life. So, what's it going to here? Yeah, she'll be fine as long as she has a boyfriend. It's funny because she was like, is Pepe coming too? I was like, yes, he's coming. Pepe's coming too, Mom. She's like, what about Malena, which is like the sister? I'm like, yeah, if she wants to come and stay, she can stay. We're trying to get you a 2-bedroom because she's in a 1-bedroom right now. We're trying to get you a 2-bedroom so that way if you have an extra room and people want to come stay with you, they can come and stay with you. If we want to visit with you right now, we couldn't because you're in a 1-bedroom. So we could come and stay with you. It's whatever, but we're just trying to will I have a washer and dryer? I'm like, we're trying to get you one with the washer and dryer. We're going to get you one with a washer and dryer because we can't have you going someplace to do your laundry. So don't worry. So she's like, okay. But she doesn't, because she's schizophrenic and she's on medication, she doesn't always comprehend things, and she is more sensitive. So it's a very delicate thing because she can go from like, I think I'm understanding to I'm going crazy and I need to be institutionalized. She can go from one to the other, which is why we always have to be a little careful. But that's another layer of concern or issue for us as well. So that all's happening there. So I'm getting like my booster next week and I'm ready for having to go to Houston. So the plan is if I have to go, I'm going down the Christmas week and then spend a couple days, 2 or 3 days dealing with that, and then driving back up so I can spend Christmas with my partner because he's got to stay here. He can't leave because Indiara, the other kitty that we have, she's still, she also has kidney disease, and so she has to eat every few hours, or she starts to feel like she's starving to death. And so we feed her every few hours and we give her CBD oil and everything. So life can be complex. So there's a lot of complications in life that you have to take into account and consider. But it's like, okay, let me do the best that I can. Let me get through this. So this is one of the reasons why I was late today, because I had to stop after work, and then I was dealing with some stuff to do with my mom. And then we did our walk. I still did my walk. I am not doing my walk. But then my partner and I, we were having to talk about everything that was going on with my mom, and then also get back and make dinner. So everything was just all like too much. So it can get to be too much, and so you just have to do the best you can and try to focus on what you have control over, because you can't control everything in this universe. But if you have the right mindset, you can at least cooperate with the universe so that it makes the ride a little easier for you. It's how you have to approach it. Hey Ray. Raina. I had Ray earlier today. I'm glad she'll be in your. I'm glad she'll be in my sister as well. It's funny because I told my sister, I was like, look, you want kids, and sometimes we were just having a conversation. She was like, I don't know if I want kids or not, and I was just like, well, she's like, I don't know if I should come off the pill or not because, if you get pregnant. And I was like, well, do you want kids? She's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, well, you ain't getting any younger, girl. So you might as well just get to getting because you're about to get married anyway. So you might as well get to getting on it. And you can start, and I said, if you don't know for sure, then practice. And what you need is practice. And what I would say is offer to babysit for people who, have kiddos. Offer to like go and participate in activities where you're around kids. Like put yourself in situations where you have to deal with kids and the reality of caring for other children so you can get more acclimated and you can get a realistic understanding of whether you really want to have kids or not. And so she's like, okay, I think I'm, she's like, okay, I got to practice. And so she was trying to figure out how to, and now this happened. She's like, well, you're going to get your practice, girl. You asked for responsibilities with the child. Well, it ain't a child, it's mama, which is still, she kind of, she's a child in her head, but still like this is good practice. All right, so let's start with the book. So we're on page 95 right here. So we're on The Secret, page 95. So I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to read a little bit, and then we'll stop, and then we'll chit-chat about. And if you guys, by the way, no personal readings. So if you're tuning in and you want me to do a reading for you, unfortunately, that was in the last hour. This is now just study group. So I'm only reading from the book, commenting or responding back with my own understanding. And I'm also answering spiritual or topical questions. So if you have a spiritual based question or a topical question, not a personal question about yourself or a reading about your life, go ahead and ask it, and I'll check before I get off here today. Okay. All right. So page 95, The Secret to Money. Whatever the mind can conceive, it can achieve. Jack Canfield. The Secret was a real transformation for me because I grew up with a very negative father who thought that rich people were people that ripped everyone off and thought that anyone that had money must have deceived somebody. So I grew up with a lot of beliefs about money, that if you had it, it made you bad. Only evil people have money and money doesn't grow on trees. Who do you think I am, Rockefeller? That was one of his favorite phrases. So I grew up truly believing that life was difficult. It was only when I met W. Clement Stone that I began to shift my life. When I was working with Stone, he said, I want you to set a goal that's so big that if you achieved it, it would blow your mind. And you would know it's only because of what I've taught you that you would have achieved this goal. At the time, I was making about $8,000 a year. So I said, I want to make $100,000 in a year. Now, I have no idea how I could do that. I saw no strategy, no possibility, but I just said, I'm going to declare that, I'm going to believe it, I'm going to act as if it's true and release it. So I did that. One of the things he taught me was every day to close your eyes and visualize the goals as if it's already achieved. I had actually made a $100,000 bill that I'd put on the ceiling. So first thing in the morning, I'd look up and there it was. And it would remind me that this was my intention. Then I would close my eyes and visualize having this $100,000 a year lifestyle. Interestingly enough, nothing major happened for about 30 days. And remember what I said, guys, whenever you're trying to work on manifesting something and you're really doing it the way you need to be doing it, it usually takes 30 to 90 days for something to show up that aligns with your manifestation. So he confirms this with what he's saying here. Interestingly enough, nothing major happened for about 30 days. I didn't have any great breakthrough ideas. No one was offering me more money. After about 4 weeks into it, I had a $100,000 idea. It just came right into my head. I had a book I had written, and I said, if I sell 400,000 copies of my book at a quarter each, that'd be $100,000. Now, the book was there, but I never had this thought. One of the secrets is that when you have an inspired thought, you have to trust it and act on it. I didn't know how I was going to sell 400,000 copies. Then I saw the National Enquirer at the supermarket. I had seen that millions of times and it was just background. And all of a sudden it jumped out at me as foreground. I thought if readers knew about my book, certainly 400,000 people would go out and buy it. About 6 weeks later, I gave a talk at Hunter College in New York to 600 teachers. And afterward, a woman approached me and said, "That was a great talk. I want to interview you. Let me give you my card." As it turns out, she was a freelance writer who sold her stories to the National Enquirer. The theme from the Twilight Zone went off in my head, like, whoa, this stuff is really working. That article came out and our book sales started to take off. The point I want to make is that I was attracting into my life all these different events, including this person. To make a long story short, I did not make $100,000 that year. We made $92,327. But do you think we were depressed and saying, that doesn't work? No, we were saying, this is amazing. So my wife said to me, if it works for 100,000, do you think it'd work for $1 million? And I said, I don't know. I think so. Let's try it. My publisher wrote me a royalty check for our first Chicken Soup of the Soul book, and he actually put a smiley face in his signature because it was the first $1 million check he'd ever written. So I know from my own experience, because I wanted to test it. Does this secret really work? We put it to the test. It absolutely worked. And now I live my life from that every single day. The knowledge of the secret and the intentional use of the law of attraction can be applied to every single subject in your life. It is the same process for everything you want to create, and the subject of money is no different. To attract money, you must focus on wealth. It is impossible to bring more money into your life when you are noticing you do not have enough, because that means you are thinking thoughts that you do not have enough. Focus on not enough money, and you will create untold more circumstances of not having enough money. You must focus on the abundance of money to bring that to you. You have to emit a new signal with your thoughts, and those thoughts should be that you currently have more than enough. You really do need to call your imagination into play and make believe you already have the money you want. And it is so much fun to do. You will notice as you pretend and play games of having wealth that you feel instantly better about money. And as you feel better about it, it will begin to flow into your life. Jack's wonderful story inspired the Secret team to create a blank check available as a free download on the Secret website, www.thesecrettv.tv. The blank check is for you, and it is from the Bank of the Universe. You fill in your name, the amount, and details, and place it in a prominent place where you will see it every day. When you look at the check, feel the feelings of having that money now. Imagine spending that money, all the things you will buy and the things you will do. Feel how wonderful that is. Know it is yours, because when you ask, it is. We have received hundreds of stories from people who have brought huge sums of money to them using the secret check. It's a fun game that works. Attract abundance. The only reason any person does not have enough money is because they are blocking money from coming to them with their thoughts. Every negative thought, feeling, or emotion is blocking your good from coming to you, and that includes money. It is not that money is being kept from you by the universe, because all the money you require exists right now in the invisible. If you do not have enough, it is because you are stopping the flow of money coming to you, and you are doing that with your thoughts. You must tip the balance of your thoughts from lack of money to more than enough money. Think more thoughts of abundance than of lack, and you have tipped the balance. When you need money, it is a powerful feeling within you. And so, of course, through the law of attraction, you will continue to attract needing money. I can speak from experience about money because just before I discovered the secret, my accountants told me that my company had suffered a major loss that year, and in 3 months it would be history. After 10 years of hard work, my company was about to slip through my fingers. As I needed more money to save my company, things just got worse. There seemed no way out. Then I discovered the secret, and everything in my life, including the state of my company, was totally transformed because I changed the way I was thinking. As my accountants continued to fuss about the figures and focus on that, I kept my mind focused on abundance and all being well. I knew with every fiber of my being that the universe would provide, and it did. It provided in ways I could not have imagined. I had my moments of doubt, but when the doubt came, I immediately moved my thoughts to the outcome of what I wanted. I gave thanks for it. I felt the joy of it, and I believed. I want to let you in on a secret to the secret. The shortcut to anything you want in your life is to be and feel happy now. It is the fastest way to bring money and anything else you want into your life. Focus on radiating out into the universe those feelings of joy and happiness. When you do that, you will attract back to you all things that bring you joy and happiness, which will not only include an abundance of money, but everything else you are wanting. You must radiate out the signal to bring back what you want. As you radiate out those feelings of happiness, they will be sent back to you as the pictures and experiences of your life. The law of attraction is reflecting back your innermost thoughts and feelings as your life. And then we'll stop there because I want to talk about this because there's a lot of examples here. So here's an example of this. So for example, with the whole thing that's happening with my mom, obviously that's like stressful just because it's a whole lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work. And also just this close to the beginning of the year. And then at the same time, we're looking for like certain types of locations, not just any location. And then we have to find something within her price point, close to my sister. So it's like it adds that pressure. And when this first happened, I was like, because in the past, whenever something happened with my mother, I was the first one to show up to the scene to fix it. That's always been my case. This is how I've always dealt with it with my mother. Whenever something has gone wrong or whenever something has gone awry or something needs to be handled, I've always been the first person to pop into the situation and fix it. And so moving here for me was a bit of a process for both my mother and I, because she had to learn to depend on other people and not always depend on me, because for her, it was easy to just ask me for everything than to ask other people around her who actually were more capable to help her in the moment than to ask me. In other words, here's an example of this. Once back when I was in Houston, and I was actually working, I was at work, but she had fallen. She was at our apartment complex and she fell. And she fell right outside the apartment complex in front of, this is when she first broke that was another time when she fell and she broke this part of her arm. And instead of calling an ambulance, instead of calling her boyfriend, instead of trying to ask the manager at the apartments for help, she was telling people to call me. I was at work. I was on a different part of town. There were people there in the moment who could help you. Why are you reaching out to me first? You should ask these people if they can get you whatever you need immediately, instead of you laying on the ground, Mom. Like, why are you thinking about me first? You need to call the people that's right there, because we need to get you to the hospital, which is what ended up happening. The manager came out and helped her, called an ambulance. They took her to the hospital. And that's where when they were able to get a hold of me, because again, I was working. It's not like I had my phone on or anything. Then I was able to go and like meet my sister at the hospital to find out what the hell's going on with Mom. So that's the kind of situation with my mom. So she would always come to me first, even though there were people around her who were immediately available to help her. She would rather have me do it for her. And that was the relationship with Mom. So over the years, I've gotten her to really depend on other people as well, and not always depend on me, because I'm not always able to help in the immediate situation. And so that has been a process for her. That has been a process for me. Now, me moving here to New Mexico and being 14 hours away by driving, 2 hours away by plane, but 14 hours away by driving, and definitely not 1,000 miles away from Houston. Call Rini, call my sister, and we have another sister we don't we don't have nothing to do with, but call my sister, or so you can't call me thinking that I can fix it from way over here, because I'm not in a position to be able to do anything right away. You need to ask Rini, or someone, or her boyfriend or whatever. So it's helped her. She's learned, she's adapted, she's been able to get around that, and people actually came into the scene to be more available to her. And now she has a nurse that's showing up, that's checking on her once a week. Now she has insurance that is covering a lot of these other needs that she says. So the universe changed and made things easier for her because it forced her to deal with the obvious, which was you can't just always put it on one person when they're not the best person to fix the situation in the moment. And me also being here, accepting the fact that I'm not going to be the first person on the scene was also my way of accepting the universe, that the universe is we're going to work around this, etc. So now here we are in a situation. And again, in the past, if something happens with mom, I'm the first person on the scene. When this happened, immediately it was like, I've got to deal with this. I've got to fix this. I've got to get this taken care of. I'm 1,000 miles away and my mom has less than 30 days to find a new place. So it's like, oh my God. So the level of anxiety coming right out of dealing with Chanel. And then on top of that, it's just, there's a whole lot of additional things. And so in the immediate moment, it wasn't it wasn't easy for me to process all this. And I was like, oh shit, like this is a whole lot. But I was like, okay, I got to do what I got to do. It is what it is. Let me power through it. So then, I told my sister, as soon as I found out, I told my sister, she was like, oh my God, Nano, like I'm still prepping for the wedding and like it's 2 months away. And like, so all these other things. And then on top of that, she busts her ass. She does work a lot. She works more hours than just an 8-hour shift because she's like the lead in her area of work. And she's in IT. So she has longer days. And so I was like, okay. And so then in the past, my sister hasn't always been as close to my mom. She hasn't always had the closest relationship to her or been as involved. Now, even though since I've left, my sister has done more for my mother than she's ever done in the past. But at the same time, she's doing more for my mom. But we weren't, she wasn't really raised with us. My sister was raised with one of my aunts. So she only spent like a few years with us when she was like a teenager. So she doesn't have that connection to my mom, even though it's her mother. It's all about the whole connection type thing. But I was always with my mother throughout all of the times where we were moving around, we were dealing with all that. I was always with my mom. So in the moment, I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot. I told my sister, I'm thinking I'm going to have to, I got to put a list together, find a bunch of complexes, find places or properties that are rental properties, look and see what's going to be, what's going to accommodate her, etc. So all these different things, having to come up with this list or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, I need to just take a moment, breathe, and just recoup myself. So then I went for my walk, trying to just come to terms and accept and come to peace with what is. And then I get back from my walk and my sister's like, hey, I already found a place for mom and it looks like this might work for her or whatever. So she's already like, she's already like 100 miles ahead of me. And I was like, whoa, what is going on? So she's doing all these things and I'm like, thank you so much for that. I wasn't expecting you to do all that. And she was like, yeah, she's like, no, this is what I do all day. I'm literally like strategizing and solving problems. This is what I do and multitasking like a maniac. So I got this, like, it's okay. Don't worry. We got this. I'm like, okay. And like that in itself, like just the weight of it just released in that moment. And that in itself was a blessing just to have my sister like, hey, I'm here. I got this too. I'm like, oh shit. Oh, thank you so much for that. So I said, thank you for that. Cause I was not expecting her to do all that. So then she's doing all these other things as well. And she's already like, okay, this is where we're going to move her. So she's already got all these things in motion and I'm just like taking the time to process it so that I can come up with the strategy and then hit it. And so while I was coming to peace with it and accepting it, the universe stepped in and did something to help with the process. So that's one thing, and so all these things are occurring where other opportunities and other help is coming into the scene to make it easier for us. And so it's just this is an example of this, but what they were talking about is money, and I want to reference money. And so when I lived in Houston, I owned a house in Houston. And when we first bought the house, it was in a gentrifying, it was in my old neighborhood where my mom's at. And it was still a neighborhood that was gentrifying. And when we first got the house, it was pretty low in the cost, but it was the prettiest house in the block. It had been redone. It was a craftsman style house. When I first saw the house online, I thought the house was in the Heights in Houston. For those of you who know the Heights in Houston, there's really pretty old houses. I thought the house was in the Heights. And so I saw the house online. I didn't even pay attention to where it was in the map. I just said, oh my God, that's a beautiful house. I would love to have that house. Of course, I assumed it was not in an affordable range for me at that time because those houses in the Heights were expensive. And this was like 15 years ago. So I was like, I don't know. And I was on a Starbucks salary. So I was like, okay, I'm trying to make this work. But then then I was trying to find properties in the area, and I passed by it, and I was like, that house looks so familiar. And then I realized that's the house that I saw. And not only that, but when I was a kid, the bus, because I lived in like a one story apartment, one bedroom apartment with my mom and my sister. And it was, again, it's the hood. I mean, when you're in the hood, you put aluminum foil on the windows to keep the heat keep the heat from heating up the house, because you only got one air conditioner. You're trying to cool off the entire apartment, and it's one of those window units, and you're trying to, like, you're putting sheets over the windows as well. You don't use curtains, you use sheets. Like, I mean, this was my life growing up. And when I used to ride the bus as a kid, I actually would pass by that house, and I would see it because I saw how pretty it was. And I thought to myself, like, I would like to live in that house. I would like to live in that house. And I actually thought of the house as really pretty. But in my mind, it was always like I'm poor. Someone who has money lives there. I don't. So that was always something that I saw growing up. And I never thought I would actually live in a house like that. I thought I was going to be poor for the rest of my life. So then when I was looking for a house in that side of town, something that was affordable with my price range, I saw that house, skipped it, thought it was in the Heights, then passed by it one day because it had been redone since when I was a kid. And I was like, that's the house I saw online. And then I realized the price, and I was like, oh my God, that's the house. And so I knew it. That was my house. And so I started the process of getting the property, getting the house. And at that time, I didn't have savings. I didn't have money to put down as a down payment, and they were requiring money to be put down as a down payment. And I also had like debt. I had like $4,000 or $5,000 in debt, and my credit card. I didn't have money for the down payment, but my what I earned on a yearly, it was good. So I was good for a loan, except I needed zero debt and I needed the down payment. And they only wanted like $7,000 for the down payment, which is nothing when you think about it. That's like nothing compared to these days, where they want you to put $30,000 or $50,000 as a down payment. But at that time, I didn't have the money, and I was like, well, I can't do it. I tried, I can't do it. And around that time is when I met my partner, and my partner had just received inheritance from his own father, who had passed away. And at that time as well, the government was offering like a $10,000 incentive if you bought property within that year for taxes. So you basically buy the house and you get $10,000 as a tax break back. And that was Obama. That was during the Obama era. This was 2009, I think, 2009, when the whole housing thing was happening there. So I was like, okay. So then my partner was like, I want you to get that house. And he's like, look, I'll give you $10,000, pay off your debt, put it the rest of the down payment. When you get your money back from the taxes, you can pay me back, and it's all squared away. It didn't cost you anything. And I was like, okay. And there was a perfect opportunity for me to buy a house and have the money provided for me and then paid back. And I didn't have to do anything for that. And you could see that's like alignment. That's like an opportunity. That's law of attraction. But at the same time, I was so prideful and proud, and I was just like, I don't feel comfortable people giving me money or owing people money or feeling like I owe people money. I grew up where you bust your ass, you work hard, you don't ask for handouts, you do whatever you have to do to survive. You take care of yourself, you take care of your family. That's what you need to do. You don't ask for handouts, you don't get money from people, you don't pay, you don't owe people money. And so I grew up with that mindset and that idea. And so this opportunity was not requiring me to owe anyone anything other than just go along with it. So I had to get out of my own conditioning and my historical conditioning, my pride, and take advantage of the opportunity that was presented to me. And I did. And I got my house. I was able to buy my house. And so that worked out exactly the way it was supposed to work out. Paid my partner back the $10,000, all of that. It all worked out perfectly. Didn't cost me anything other than just the effort. That was it. But that's alignment. So that's one story. If you really are wanting to get in alignment with something and you want something, the universe will provide a way, even if it's not a way that you ever considered or thought would be possible. Another thing about money, because we're talking about money, is that house, when we first got it, the house was like, it was like not that it was not that inexpensive. It was, I mean, it was inexpensive for that area at this time. It's like it was like 133 or something like that. It was like compared to houses nowadays, you're paying 250, 300. I mean, you know, in the neighborhood that we live in, there's like $400,000 or $500,000 houses in this area. So it's like it's definitely a change. But back then, $133,000 was a lot of money for a house for someone like me who grew up from the hood. And so I always tell my partner, I was like, this neighborhood's going to change. This neighborhood's going to come up, and this is probably not going to be a forever home. When we decide to sell, we're going to make a hefty amount. And I want to sell this for like $350 or $370 or whatever. Or I'm sorry, I wanted to sell it for like almost 300. I'm sorry, almost as close to 3 as I could, when I was ready. And he was like, that ain't gonna happen. And I was like, my mother, her house in the Heights, you know, like took years. It took almost 20 years for her property to go up to the value it's at now. It's not going to happen with our house in like less than 10 years. Well, it happened in less than 10 years and the property value went up. So when I was ready to sell my house, I was like, okay, cool. I had an idea and a thought in my head. And it's funny because I had to go back and forth with my realtor, who's also a friend. I was like, this is what I want to put the house in the market for. And he was like, that may not be doable. And I was like, well, look, if it's not doable, we'll find out if it doesn't sell. But put it out there, put it on the market. And he's like, I don't know. And then a woman that he worked at the agency that he worked at, she called me because she was trying to talk me out of the price point for the house. And she's like, you need to be realistic. You need to be practical. I'm like, I don't think you know who I am. I'm not a realistic, practical person. I operate off of, energy, and I operate off of mindset. And if this isn't going to work, then it's not going to work. And then I'll come to terms with that reality then. But I'm going to try it just to see what happens. So let's just try it. So let's put it out there for this price point and let's see what happens. And so a year before that happened, before I put my house on the market, I used to jog. We have a treadmill, and I used to jog on the treadmill every day. In the afternoon, I would jog, right? I put on my headphones, the thing that I tell you how to do to raise your energy, raise your vibration. I put on my headphones. I had pictures on the wall in front of the treadmill. And one of the pictures was of a mock-up of my bank account. So at that time, I had 3 bank accounts. I had my joint account with my mom. I had my own personal account. And then I also had my expense account as well. And I took that, went in with the computer program, changed the numbers on the picture so that I had put like 133,000 in my personal account or whatever amount. I put an amount there. And every day I would walk and I would see it as if, you know how like some people, like they check their account every single day. For me, it's like I'm checking my account every day, even though I'm checking my actual account maybe once a week, but I'm seeing this every day as if I'm checking my account every day. And that's what's in my account. And so that's how it was. And so I would jog and I would listen to my music and I'd do whatever. And I'd see that amount and I'd see that amount and I'd see that amount. And like, that's what's in my account. Cool. So 1 year later, we sell the house. And my sister remembers because these are my vision board techniques. This is what I've told you about with vision boards. And my sister knew what was there because she had seen it as well. And people thought I was crazy. They saw my pictures when they would come visit. They're like, you're crazy, Ferny. I was like, that's okay. There was like a half naked picture of me when I was younger. And I'm like, you can see my whole body except my privates, like that's covered, but you could see my body because that's what my body looked like when I was younger. So I was like, that's my ideal body right there. So that was there. You're like, you're crazy, Ferny. I'm like, I know I'm crazy, but whatever. There's my, picture of my Santa Fe view with looking out the window at the mountains with my computer, which I have now. I got my body back to the way it was in that picture, more or less. Things are hanging lower than they should, but that's okay. That happens when you get older, right? So, but I got a bunch of things on there. I actually got everything on my vision board. But so bank account. We put the house on the market, and it took about 2 months for a buyer, and it didn't sell for 300. It didn't sell for what I wanted it to, but it got pretty damn close. And so even the number that we were able to get for it, my friend was like, I did not expect that you were going to be able to get this for the house. And I was like, it's a nice house. This is a gentrifying area. It's going to go up, so I'm part of the problem of gentrification because I helped bring that price up. So now I'm reaping the benefit of it with dealing with my mom and moving her in. That's the karma, people. That's the circle of karma. But it is okay because I'm going to work with it. So once everything was squared away, I still owed money on the house from the loan because it was like a 30-year loan. I had only had it for 10 years. So I still owed money on that. But I also, I had my truck, was still making payments on my truck. I had some debt at that time, not a whole lot, but I had some debt at the time. But then we were also prepping for a move to here, to New Mexico, and all that other stuff. So when everything was squared away and the money was transferred into my account once we sold and the loan had already been paid off, the exact amount of money in my account was 1,000 off from my picture of what I had put in to the picture. I don't do math, y'all. So it's not like I had planned this a year in advance. Okay, in 1 year, I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to have everything squared away, and then I'm going to be off by 1,000. I didn't plan all that. That's how it worked out. Everything was squared away. And after my truck was paid off, I paid off my truck. It's all owned now. I paid off my debt. So I did all these things to get that all taken care of. And then what was in my account was, what was remaining in my account was, what I had wanted in my account. So I was like, of course, then that went to all these other things that I had to take care of, like retirement, and now we have this and that. And so it's all everywhere else except in my hands, because I don't want to touch it. When I get older, I don't want to depend on people. I want to be okay financially. So put this in retirement, and we got a retirement fund set. So, but and then also because we're going to buy a new house here in New Mexico. So part of that is for the new house, but it was like, all of it fell into place. And the fact that when I looked at my account number after the money had transferred in, I looked and I was like taken aback, and I was like, what the? And I was like, and then I had to go and look at my picture and find it, and it was off by 1,000. I was like, and then I sent the picture to my sister. Look. She's like, oh my God, Nana, you're such a powerful manifester. I was like, hey, nothing to do with, girl. I got this. So it was just so much fun to have something like that, achieve it energetically, and it show up the way that you had been focusing on it for about a year, just by treadmill and my music work and everything. So that's another example. So when they talk about this stuff, like I know exactly that this works because I've done it several times in my life in several different instances. So like today, with my mom and all that was stressing me out a little bit, and it's giving me anxiety. But my mom is blessed that my sister and I are there to help her with this. And we're blessed that we have the resources to be able to make this happen for her. And so there's a whole lot of things that we are grateful for. And there are people out there who don't even have a home. And so to help myself feel the sense of blessing and to understand that we are still blessed, and there are people who have it worse. I went today, and for my Friday, because I donate money every single Friday, that's my thing. It's like I do something charitable on Fridays. And so today's Friday, I donated to the homeless cause, because that for me is like, okay, I need to write my energy, and I need to appreciate where I'm at, even if it seems challenging, and I need to offer the same opportunity for someone who may be less fortunate. And so that's how you kind of reverse it. So that's what he was also talking about here. You kind of have to reverse that energy and get into a positive state of mind, or into a right state of mind. And so in the past, whenever I've run into situations where, and this was in the earlier days of my business, whenever I would be worried about people booking appointments, I'm like, oh my God, because I would only be booked up like 1 week, 2 weeks like ahead in advance. And for me, that was like scary, because if you work at Starbucks, for me, that was like a regular paycheck every 2 weeks. I didn't have to worry about it as much. I felt more of a certainty, even though it wasn't. But with my business, when you own your own business, especially when you're in the service industry, like if you're a massage therapist, or if you're a psychic or a medium, or if you do something like this, sometimes you don't have the luxury of having yourself booked out for months and months and months in advance. And the fact that I am that I've gotten myself to that point where there's services that I now have that some people are booked out months in advance. Some people, it's only a few weeks in advance, but still it's, a bit of a, but that's job security, right? That's job security. If I'm booked out for a few months with certain services, that's security already. That is already a given that's something I can rely on or depend on. But back in the day, I would only be booked up 1 week or 2 weeks in advance. And it would stress me out, and it would worry me, because I'm like, I hope I have more clients coming in. I hope I have more customers that are going to keep coming, or I hope I'm going to keep being able to have business, because I don't want to ever be in a situation where I don't have money for my bills. And so whenever I would get into that state of worrying, I had to snap out of it, because worrying doesn't change anything. Worrying doesn't fix the situation. Worrying just produces more of that energy, which brings more experience to you of worrying. So what I would do is, whenever I would get to a place of worrying, I would instead work on something for my business. So I felt like I had something that I was in control of, that I could work on, that gave me a sense of control, gave me a sense of I'm achieving something or I'm doing something in the benefit of my business. So whenever I would get into the state, I would work on some videos and edit some videos, or I would go and work on my website and make some graphics or whatever. So I would go and do something for my business whenever I would worry about whether I was gonna have business past the 2-week mark. And whenever I did that, people would book. And so I would have 3, 4, 6 appointments booked within 1 hour whenever I would get my mind off of the worry, and I would just do something that I felt I could control that helped me to feel like I was contributing to the success of my business. And it was the same thing. It's the same thing. It was the same thing with work. Whenever I actually did work, whenever I was doing appointments, people tend to book during the times when I'm working. Sometimes when I'm doing lives, people book. Sometimes when I'm working on stuff for work, people book. It's usually whenever I'm doing something for work or for my business where I feel like I'm contributing or achieving something for the business or for people, and then it shows up during that period. So I'll have like 4 or 5 days where there's not really a whole lot going on. And then the 1 or 2 hours that I do something that week, all of a sudden, if it's like a week where I'm not doing so much in 1 or 2 hours, within that 1 or 2 hours, I would have all these appointments booked during that time because it was drawing in the connections and the universe was sending the people who needed to come to me. And so that's how I would deal with it in the past whenever I was dealing with that. And I would get scared that I was going to have clients, or that I would get scared that no one was going to book, or I would get scared that nobody wanted to have me, do services. Now it's a different story. Now it's like, it's not even a question at this point. I trust that people keep booking because they do. And I built a business, so I'm proud of, but that's what I do. So if you have a business and you're trying to you're worried about the business being successful, or you're worried about, earning income or whatever, focus. What you do is you take your energy away from that and just focus on the thing you have control over that might benefit that thing or helps you feel better about it. And by doing so, you release the control, you release that lower vibratory state, you get to an ascended state of being, and all of a sudden the universe is like, boom, and brings it to you fairly quickly. So no, that's a trick that I use. I still use that trick to this day with a lot of things. And that's exactly what happened with my sister. I was like, oh shit, like this is a lot. Let me go process this, go for my walk, came back thinking that, okay, now I got to get my game plan ready. And a bunch of things got done for me without even having to try. That's what I'm talking about there. So that's an example. So that way you guys can use that as well. Okay. All right. So I think thank you. I appreciate Yessie. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Universe responded. It does. I live in New Mexico, Mama. So Melody, I live in New Mexico. My family's in Houston. Everybody I know is in Houston. But I live in New Mexico because I love it here. It's so peaceful. And I'm near Santa Fe. Santa Fe is the closest city that we're close to. I'm not in the city though. I'm like on the outskirts of the city where there's more acreage and room and nature. So yep. All right, guys. I am done. I gotta get to getting because I gotta get off and go make dinner and finish up dinner. So I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to me and participating, and use these tricks because they work. Okay. I love you all, and I will see